New York, let's start with this. New York ranking third in the nation when it comes to wrongful convictions.
Yeah, New York recently passed some much-needed reforms to prevent innocent people from going to jail for crimes they didn't commit. But advocates say much more is needed. So joining us this morning is Kevin Richardson, one of the members of the Exonerated Five, and he is joined by Rebecca Brown from the Innocence Project. Good morning to both of you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
All right, Kevin, let's start out with you because had any of these reforms been in place way back in 1989, you would not have spent 7 years in custody. What kind of changes do you feel still need to be put in place now to protect innocent people?
Yes, that's right. If this was in place, I would never spend 7 years of my life in prison for something I didn't do. And if this would have been there, there would be a lot of free people still around. So even though we're fighting to pass this law, it still gives cops the opportunity still to lie. And that's one of the main reasons that we're fighting.
Yeah, and Rebecca, why hasn't New York? Why have they not completely banned the interrogation of minors? And Kevin was a minor at the time.
Right. Well, I mean, I think, interrogations are, a feature of criminal investigations. And so I don't expect that interrogations entirely will be banned. But what we would love to see and what desperately needs to happen is a ban on the deception that law enforcement can employ during interrogations. Obviously, young people are particularly vulnerable to providing false confessions based on deception by law enforcement, but perfectly mentally capable adults as well provide false confessions. And the legislation that has been introduced would ban deception by law enforcement for all, not just for young people.
Yeah.
All right, well, Kevin, over the years, we've learned about deceptive practices that the prosecutors and police used in your case. Now, are cops still allowed to use these tactics, and how would these new reforms change all that?
Yes, that's the thing about it, that it's still allowed, even though that cops will be filmed in the process from the beginning to the end, because you never see the middle, what's happening. And that's the scary part about it, that they're still recorded. They're being recorded, but they still can lie. So we're fighting, and we're still in the trenches. I tell people that the struggle still continues. So we're hoping that these practices will change to use this deception, and that's what it's about. And we got to hold everyone accountable. It's about accountability.
Yeah, Rebecca, just curious, how many cases have been overturned in New York in recent years?
Sure. I mean, New York is the third leading state in the country in terms of wrongful convictions that have been revealed. That doesn't necessarily mean that New York has a bigger wrongful conviction problem. It just means that more have been revealed. But of those cases, a staggering 43 of them involve false confessions. These are proven wrongful convictions where somebody falsely confessed. 43, and 80% of those people are people of color. So we really see this not just as an innocence reform, but as a racial justice reform.
Those are some staggering numbers. Kevin, another critical part of these reforms allows people who initially pleaded guilty to get a second chance to prove their innocence. Now, maybe you can explain some of that. Why would anyone plead guilty if they are not guilty?
That's a great question, and that's often asked. And you really don't know until you're put in that predicament. And I can speak for myself and my brothers. The Exonerated Five, we were in a position where we felt cornered, and we thought that we would go home. And being so vulnerable, even for an adult, but for a kid, that's the scariest thing. And when you put into the position, all you want to do is get out of it. And I remember that night of April 19th, 1989, where I thought maybe I would not even come out of prison. So when you put in that position, I think you'll do anything to escape it.
Yeah. What were they telling you exactly?
Well, amongst many, one thing is that, you're a good kid, you don't have a record, just tell us what we want to hear. And being so young and being naive that you put yourself in that position thinking that, well, I know I didn't do anything, so let me just help out. And what they were doing, they were persuading us and using their mind and their seasoned tactic to get over. And once you're already involved, that's it, because you already put yourself in the crime. So amongst emotional harm, physical harm, things of that nature, before you know it, you're knee deep.
Wow, and I'm sure that sticks with you. That will stick with you for a very long time. Rebecca, just curious, how long will it take then before these reforms go into effect?
Look, I mean, our hope is that by next year, which will be the 20th anniversary of the freedom of the Exonerated Five, these reforms will have been passed. They've simply been introduced at this point. So, one would ban deception. Another bill would provide right to counsel for young people, also incredibly important during interrogations. And the final one would allow for people who pled guilty to get relief in court without, many people can do that right now if they have the benefit of DNA evidence. But unfortunately, there was a high court decision a few years ago, which basically banned people who plead guilty from getting back into court when they're innocent without DNA. So we're trying to change that as well, because 20% of the nation's wrongfully convicted pled guilty to crimes they did not commit.
Wow.
Remarkable. We thank you both, Kevin Richardson and Rebecca Brown. Thanks for joining us this morning with that.